Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing fantastic today. Very excited to chat with you all and kind of explain and show what it is that we're doing here at SafetyTek with respect to Toolbox Talks, and again, how we can all reduce incident rates just by simply performing them. It's been something that's been very top of mind for us, I guess, over the last few years. Anyone that seems to be intrigued about the effect of what a toolbox talk or a safety meeting can do has always been reaching out, and we've been brainstorming new ideas for a long time now, and we're very excited to bring this now to you guys for consumption. Before we jump in, I want to let everyone know that your mics are all muted. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat box in the bottom, and we will circle back to those questions at the end. We'll have a short Q&A. Also, everyone's going to receive an emailed version of this webinar, the slides and the video included. So look for that in your inbox afterwards. And I'd love to talk to you guys directly, either myself or one of our account managers or account executives will be reaching out at some point in time just to get your feedback on the webinar overall, and how we've chosen to solve it. We're hoping that this is going to be a large impact to the industry overall. I think we're just waiting for a few stragglers to roll in, and we'll get going here. Something about just Toolbox Talks just in general is just how quickly and easily they can make an impact on a workforce. It's surprising how fast they happen to work. And we're going to get into sort of the nitty-gritty parts of the details in just a little bit here. And as myself, as well as my product manager, or SafetyTek's product manager, is going to be joining us and explaining his story as well in behind a Toolbox Talk and how he's experienced Toolbox Talks in the field. So we're about 4 minutes after. We'll get going, and stragglers will have to catch up. So I founded SafetyTek in 2014 along with one of my best friends, and the whole concept of what SafetyTek is meant to be doing is helping safety professionals implement safety in a little more robust manner. I'm a 14-year veteran in functional safety engineering and control systems implementation, and so I take preventative measures quite seriously. I think it's way cheaper to prevent incidents from ever occurring than it is to pay to mitigate them, and the numbers show the same, in the sense that what the industry pays to mitigate the consequences of an incident that's already occurred. And I have a direct story kind of correlating to that with that of my father, who had been injured really early on in his career. I was quite young, so I don't remember the exact details, but I'm able to see now the consequences of that incident throughout his entire life, where he compressed a lower disc, a spinal disc in his lower back, and it had to be fused. And while that worked really great for the first 15, 20 years of his life moving forward, it started to break down and crack and cause chronic pain and sciatic nerve issues and little things that are stopping him from being able to live a fulfilled life in the way that he would like to. It stops him from being able to pick up the grandkids whenever he wants, or mow the lawn, or even dig a hole to plant a tree. So it really impacts his life and his ability to enjoy it. And that's just one of thousands and thousands of these workplace injuries that may not end in fatality, which is, heaven forbid that ever happens, which happens too frequently as it is, but it cripples people moving forward. And while they're included in a lower statistic than a fatality, it still has a detrimental effect to multiple people, it spiders throughout society. So if we can prevent any of that, then I think that we've done a fantastic job. And I'll kick it over to Z to introduce himself.
Right on. Thank you, Ryan. I'm Z. I'm SafetyTek's product manager. I joined the company a little over a year ago now. Last month was about my 1 year mark. I have about 6+ years experience in product management. I've worked on a plethora of different products, from various different industries. So I was introduced to SafetyTek about a year ago, and I saw a lot of merit in the company because in every company that I worked for, even prior to getting into technology, there was always the health and safety component. And that to me carried a lot of merit and it was intriguing to me. So I wanted to, of course, get involved and see how we can kind of revolutionize that space in tech. And here I am today. So I wanted to be a part of this team and this journey, and we're trying to do everything we can to kind of foster a culture of health and safety, but of course, you know, make it exciting and fun while doing it.
Exactly. Thanks, Z. Appreciate it. So that brings us to SafetyTek itself. You know, the purpose of supporting workplace safety by simplifying mandatory processes and engaging in a positive safety culture, reducing the carbon footprint. Those milestones have always been the goal for SafetyTek. It's been our mission from the very start. And having worked in the field, you know, and witnessing kind of firsthand how safety is viewed by a lot of the workers, it made me understand the struggle of a safety manager or a safety coordinator, or even an owner operator of a firm, trying to get the buy-in required from the workforce can be very difficult. And not only that, but you struggle with that, but you have issues with, you know, kind of regulatory authorities breathing down your neck, you know, constantly asking you for updated documentation or reporting. And then, you know, you want to kind of spin that view of that safety is a cost center from management of your firm. If you don't happen to own the company, but you work for an owner or a C-suite or executive or however that works in your firm, you have to continuously justify the need for why we're doing this stuff, and it can become daunting. And so with that, this is the mission that we decided to go on, was to help processes in your safety program to help you be able to justify the need for it and to engage your workforce, and ultimately change that stigma. So today we're going to talk about some of the common challenges with Toolbox Talks. I'm going to talk for 15-20 minutes, and then Z's going to jump in and show you the actual product itself and what it can do and how it can help you. And then at the very end, just hold on, we do have a gift for you guys. We want to be able to give you something for attending the webinar today as well. So hang on tight for the end of the webinar. We'll let you know how to access that. But I want to talk about the challenges. I want to influence how you can influence safety culture just in general, or as I call it, company culture, just culture in general. We'll highlight what Toolbox are and what their legal requirements tend to be as well. Like what is OSHA looking for? What is occupational health and safety looking for? We'll have a walkthrough of our solution for Toolbox Talks, which will be run by Z. And at the end, that Q&A and that gift that we're going to give you. So stick in with the webinar, post your questions that you do have in the chat box, and we'll answer those. So keeping safety, or the challenges, of safety professionals when they're trying to improve their safety program just in general. Keeping safety top of mind, increasing, employee engagement, missing safety information, which is a huge problem. Effectively collecting and using data just generally. Staying on top of that regulatory compliance, all these things I was talking about earlier, and preventing incidents ultimately is what we're trying to do. Toolbox Talks helps you with each of the challenges by it, directly or indirectly. You can think of Toolbox Talks as short training sessions that were meant to reinforce safety training with information on any specific topic. They occur preferably on the job site, and they should be done, before work really starts. That's the kind of the best time frame to start those off. It's important that they cover a variety of topics kind of related to jobs or tasks, and we'll dive into a bit more on why breadth of topics is important, but they're generally shouldn't be too long or lengthy. They're nice and short little clips of information, and ranging from extreme weather to how to use a ladder properly, little things like that. All of the kind of reinforce what workers are dealing with on a regular basis. They're a great refresher as well, that keep employees informed of important health and safety information. So some of the key points that Toolbox Talks, that help in order to help with these challenges is, one, doing at the job site. This is where your hazard identification needs to take place. So having Toolbox Talks being performed elsewhere doesn't really help much in the sense of hazard identification, which is ultimately what we're trying to do, and controls as well. But if they're in the work site on the environment that they're going to be performing hazard identification, it gets their brain locking in the new information with the environment that surrounds them. You want to keep it short. People's attention span's only so long, and if you do 15-minute to 20-minute Toolbox Talks on a regular basis, engagement and attention will start to drift off near the end. Tests, you want to test your workforce to make sure that they're consuming the information and recalling it effectively. Otherwise, it's really to no avail. And the content needs to be engaging. Reading a PDF is one way to transfer information, but I don't think people consume the same amount of information while reading it on a PDF, especially in an environment like a work site or a manufacturing floor. It's different in an office, I would say, than it is in those environments. So they really underpin all 6 of these problems. They're a valuable, effective method of communicating and involving employees while reinforcing safety throughout your workforce, and it answers every one of these pillars of problems that we face by laying a foundation of safety first. One more thing, just on the problem, just in general, and I recognize I'm well aware of the challenge that comes with preparing Toolbox Talks, and we're going to ask a little bit on, what sort of challenges are glaring for you guys. But searching online for your safety meeting topics, packaging that information into a PDF or an email, or however you want to distribute it to your leads or your foreman, delivering and tracking that data also poses substantial burden onto your plate as well, because you're already busy with a significant other amount of work with respect to safety, whether it be making sure your training is not up to date, or your hazard identification is being completed, or your near miss reporting is being finished off, or you might be in the middle of a hazard or incident investigation. It's a full-time job just to do Toolbox Talks alone, and it's kind of tacked on top of your already other full-time jobs. So it's not lost on us that it can be a burden, but the benefits are so clear that we want to make sure that you're able to do them. And so safety culture, how do we influence safety culture? Well, it's the overall adoption of safety throughout an organization's various levels of management and workers. Key point there is that it's management and workers. Safety culture is part of company culture, and it's a collection of beliefs, values, worldviews that all of your employees, contractors, management, C-suite of a company hold. Usually the culture is set at the top level of management and propagated down to all workers. That's traditionally how that works. The best part of having kind of regular Toolbox Talks cadence or schedule is that the very act of your workers participating in the program enriches your safety culture. Nobody goes to work planning to get injured, and certainly nobody arrives at work as a sacrifice to stick it to project managers or management in general. Humans, we all really just want to feel safe and instinctively, feel safe. By delivering a wide variety of safety topics, you can ensure that your workers are always following the best safety practices. And more importantly, you're able to measure which workers in the field need some extra attention or coaching. And this is where we measure if our workforce has a healthy attitude towards safety, based on overall engagement. And engagement being the key piece that we're measuring here as well, as opposed to driving them to completing Toolbox Talks. We want to involve them and have them engage voluntarily versus us enforcing it. As I mentioned before, and I want to kind of mention it again, I think Toolbox Talks as mini training sessions for workers. A successful Toolbox Talk should have workers walking away feeling like they've learned something valuable that they haven't thought of before, ideally. And it can be tricky because everyone learns a little bit different and they all have different life experiences. And this is kind of where we need to double down on engaging content just in general. Now, I believe it needs to be, it needs to be that way in order for us to create, side conversations. If we don't have engaging content, nothing's going to spur up later on the work job, on the job site, or in the workforce itself. So we need to double down on that and think about it. When you learn something new, you end up talking about it because it inspires you. You want to tell people your new piece of information. It's great, kind of, we call it water cooler talk in the office, but on a job site it could be coffee talk or lunchtime talk. So you want to learn it. Once you've learned it, you want to apply it and talk about it, and just make something that makes your life better. And when workers openly discuss safety during those coffee breaks or over lunch, it creates a safety culture that you can't possibly create through enforcement or through any other means. It's really kind of organic. And you're providing value to your workers through the Toolbox Talks, and workers give this feedback back to you tenfold through increased safety culture and on-site camaraderie. They lay the foundation for your safety culture by assisting your workers' understanding of their job duties, but more importantly, how to manage the risks that go along with those duties. I know I've seen countless amounts of injuries on site that are caused by somebody that didn't fully understand how to perform a task safely, but they were a little bit too scared to ask for help from anyone. And so they pose a substantial risk to themselves and others. But using a passive method like Toolbox Talks to communicate this information helps them receive it without pointing out that they don't know it. And it's kind of an ego thing, ego play for them. Keeping safety top of mind is critical. One of the overarching themes in safety over the last few decades is that it's really easy to neglect safety. It's easy to show up at work and just start working without really performing the hazard identification or the other needs or requirements that you're needing to perform for safety itself. While the needle hasn't really moved for incident rates over the past 30 years, starting the day off with a Toolbox Talk can make all the difference needed to keep safety top of mind and break that complacency cycle. Helping workers with hazard identification plays a role in overall safety culture. As I just mentioned, many workers won't ask for help, and sometimes for fear of either being singled out, or sometimes they don't even know what to ask help for. But training workers on all types of topics embeds this information in their brains. So when it comes time to notice hazards at work, they're primed and ready. When workers feel safe and supported, they're more productive. This isn't an industry-specific trait either, it's a human trait. When we feel safe and secure, we just perform better in general. One of the things that can make us unsure is the existence of unknown variables. And that feeling of, I think I'm doing this safely, but I'm not exactly sure. It kind of looks like everyone else is doing it the same way as me, but I'm not feeling comfortable. The Toolbox Talks, kind of the training, opens up the confidence that these workers need in order to work productively. Toolbox Talks can save lives and absolutely save lives on a regular basis. I'd like to highlight the overall impact that it can have on your workforce. Imagine telling your manager, your boss, your CEO, CFO, whoever you need to speak to about budget, that you have a way to decrease unplanned work stoppages caused by occupational injury by up to 85%. And all you need to do is one thing. Do you think that would be compelling enough to them to look at investing in it? Does anyone know how much money is lost every single year due to unplanned work stoppages caused by occupational injury? The Liberty Mutual study comes out every year, and they just came out and stated that it's about $365 billion is lost in North America alone due to lost productivity, unplanned work stoppages, interrupted work schedules, delay penalties, retraining new workers, project schedule adjustments, time. All of that adds up to $365 billion whenever there's an incident that occurs. These are non-fatal incidents. These are just unplanned work stoppages. Many companies don't keep a solid record of how much a single minor injury costs them directly, let alone the indirect costs that soon spiral out of control. OSHA estimates that a single minor injury, such as a sprain, costs an employer an average of $31,000 in direct costs, plus an additional $34,000 in indirect costs by having to retrain somebody to replace that individual for the day or the week, however that might be. Compelling Toolbox Talks promotes safety awareness as workers get actively involved in safety topics and reduce those risks. They become more aware of their surroundings and how to protect themselves. This includes workers in safety rules, equipment, preventative practices, and urges the worker to follow standard operating procedures. It provides information to the workers on accidents how they're caused and how they can protect themselves against those accidents. Some of the things that they need to be looking for from the perspective of themselves versus everybody, where it's a little bit different there. It accentuates planning, preparation, supervision, documentation. Of course, that's all very required for the safety system to work smoothly, and it helps when reviewing industry standards, company policies, and procedures. Ultimately, we want external discussion happening around Toolbox Talks. If you were to equate an average injury with lost revenue, or revenue that you need to make up for your entire company, if you have, say, if you're working for a firm that has a 2% or a 3% profit margin, that $65,000 in direct and indirect costs that you're out, you need to land about the equivalent of a $2 million contract to make up those losses. So it's a huge impact to a business's ability to earn money. Here's a quote from one of the members of the Associated Builders and Contractors that I'd like to really resonates with me as such an easy thing to do to fix a problem. Starting each day with a toolbox talk not only reinforces those general safe work expectations and obligations, but more importantly, it demonstrates to the workforce the importance of putting safety first every day. And I think we would all agree that putting safety first every day is the ultimate goal. That's what we want everybody to consider. When you perform a task every single day, you get pretty good at it. For example, I'm learning piano, and I notice that if I play about 20 minutes a day, my fingers move the way I want them to, muscle memory gets built in. I don't struggle to get the keys to be soft or sharp. I can put on a new song and play it within a single 20-minute session, and then refine it and tweak it and continue to work on it from there. And after a week, it sounds pretty good. Similar parallels can be drawn to exercising, school, educational classes. And so I think by creating the behavior and the routine of doing something daily, it makes the biggest impact that can possibly happen within a workforce. And companies that conduct daily toolbox talks, they can measure a reduction in their TRIR by 76% and DART rates by 78% compared to the companies that are doing the monthly. And this is all data that the safety report collects within the ABC. The benefits of covering broad topics, covering a wide variety of topics with novel or new signals to the brain, that's what it ends up creating. It when you learn something new, it actually releases dopamine in your brain, and this is why a new activity is always so fun to start out with. And it slowly tapers off over time, but it becomes kind of dull and difficult to continue on. But when it's new and fresh, it's very exciting. So when delivering fresh, engaging content directly to your workers, it will fill them with enough information to learn something new and remember it. And they'll be able to recall this new information quickly. It'll be readily at their fingertips. And I want to continue, and they'll want to continue to engage in future toolbox talks as it made them feel good. And when safety makes you feel good, you're more prone to keep it top of mind. And I think that's one of the biggest impacts that we could possibly make with toolbox talks today, is making sure that people have a good feeling when they complete it, so that by the time they move on with the rest of their day, of course, safety is top of mind, be it consciously or unconsciously, but also that they're going to continue to learn new topics and new things every single day. So we're going to do a quick poll. I'd like to get you guys' feedback on, and there's no wrong answers really. We're just looking to get some feedback on some of the challenges that you face when preparing toolbox talks. I have hypotheses and hunches, but I'd love to hear from you directly before we kind of dig into our approach to solving the problem. And at the end, again, we'll have that free gift for you guys to take advantage of. So we're gonna open this up just for a few minutes, drink some coffee, and see what you have to say. I'm not sure how are we looking for the feedback. of course, all your guys' feedback, whenever we do receive it, we make sure that we dive into it relatively in detail or in depth, because we want to make sure that what we're doing and delivering to the industry is, of course, what you guys are looking for and searching for, and looking at Toolbox Talks, even just the web traffic alone, it's a significant amount of web traffic of people searching for topics specifically. I'm not sure how many of you on the call have downloaded our ultimate guide to Toolbox Talks, but that's something that we provided to everyone for no charge. Just we want to make sure that everyone has an idea of what they can be utilizing throughout the entire year. So we developed an entire calendar year of Toolbox Talks themselves. Okay. So yeah, do you end up spending most of your time searching for topics? Oh, measuring worker engagement. That's a challenging one, and I would agree. If we were to mix all of the above with the measuring worker engagement, it seems like that would be the most timely piece of Toolbox Talks itself. So lucky for you, we'll show you how we can measure worker engagement and what that looks like. Searching for topics, yes. If you're searching for anything, we got to keep in mind that it's never free. If you're using time to search for topics and to create the presentations, or even deliver the content, that's such a huge time suck for you guys that I could totally empathize with the amount of effort that goes into that. And so to search for the topics, deliver the content, and then have difficulty measuring worker engagement is kind of that's a difficult challenge. And so I'm hoping that what we will be able to show you here coming up will solve your problem for you. Okay. So we're gonna jump into the product demo here, but I just wanted to point out that this new function, our SafetyTek Toolbox Talks, has been selected by the Construction Executive magazine as the top new app to launch in April. This is something that we take very seriously and we hold it near and dear. I think it's a testament to the fact that Toolbox Talks are in fact a very big problem for the industry itself. And as you guys attested to, getting and confirming that your workforce is completing these talks and measuring that can be oh so difficult. So at this point in time, I'm going to hand it over to Z, where he will take you through what the Toolbox Talks app does.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. And just before we dive into the actual product itself, it's thank you for your guys' feedback with regards to challenges. A lot of these challenges, in fact, were taken into consideration when we built out this feature for our product. And personally speaking, prior to getting into technology, I used to work at Canada Post part-time. So we used to have a regular cadence once a week of having these safety talks. I can tell you that a lot of the issues that we had were, what topics are we going to cover? There would be moments where they wouldn't have a topic to cover, so they would improvise and be like, today we'll talk about this because this happened the day before. And while they would give this speech, it would be a huddle of us employees around our supervisor, and many of them, I would say about over 50% of them, and unfortunately myself too, would be on our phone, not really paying attention. And obviously they're conveying some critical information. Just everything would kind of essentially go in one ear and go out the other. And the way they would gauge participation or engagement was they would send a paper around and everybody would sign their name, their employee ID, to just verify that they were in fact a part of that meeting. So on that behalf, they were hitting compliance, but engagement and participation wasn't there. It was very mundane, and you could tell that they were struggling to get everybody's attention. One, number two, find topics that were relevant to us or have it to a point where it was just a regular cadence, because there were also some days where they wouldn't have it prepared to kind of distribute and convey messages to the employees. That's just one of my experience. Other ways you have it, if you're working for a franchise, for instance. So I worked at TD Bank. One of the ways that it was distributed there, working in the communications department, was we would essentially have a team that would write up relevant topics, things that are going on in the industry, things pertaining to health and safety, of course, in the workplace culture. It would be written up, drafted, and then it would be distributed to all of the branches. So the branch manager would get that. They would have their morning huddle based off of what communication was written from the head office. So there's many different ways that this information is delivered, researched, and consumed, depending on your organization size and structure. Like, I'm sure some of this will speak to you guys and how you guys deliver it, but most common way is you'll have the supervisor on the site, uh, have a quick meeting, 15-minute huddle, and read the topic and sign off. And the problem with that now is that you don't know the user engagement. You can't measure if they're really paying attention or not. And, are you in fact creating safety, or was it just a mundane speech that they had to hear for compliance? So taking all of that into consideration, we wanted to figure out a way of how can we distribute this to make sure that it's consistent, to make sure that it's engaging, to make sure that the employee in fact has understood the message that's conveyed, and a way to track it. So we've done this essentially by getting the content prepared for you. So thank you, Ryan. Right here we have our calendar view. Here you'll notice that we have a Toolbox Talks topic for every day of the year. And we've created the content ourselves based off of industry standards and information pertaining to those topics. You'll notice for each calendar day that they have the topic there, and below that they have the time for distribution. At that point, you can essentially select the time you'd like it to be distributed. As Ryan said, the most ideal and optimal time to distribute these and have it consumed is prior to work starting. So that way, if they do run into any of these issues or topics, they now have the knowledge prior to starting the work period. However, you guys know your work schedule best. So if there's a different time that you like to have it distributed, simply select the time, and that will be the time that it'll be distributed to your employees. Now you're probably wondering, what topics do we have? What if I don't want to do ladder safety on Tuesday because today it's about exercising and the importance of exercising? So not a problem. We have a rich content library full of different topics. And Ryan, if you can, um, there you go, right there. So you'll notice that we have all the different topics ranging from hazardous injuries, neck injuries, all the way to proper hand washing. So you have a full content library available to you to see essentially what the topic covers. You can view the topic itself, and you could see the affiliated quiz with it. Simply choose the topic that you want and what day you want it for, and switch it out for the day that you want it for. So for example, today we have hazardous energy, as our topic, and you rather speak about neck injuries. It's as simple as just dragging neck injuries into today, and it'll swap out for hazardous energy. So it's that simple. But now we want to kind of find out, to answer to your whole, user engagement, and how do we measure if the user, being the employee, is actually paying attention, and if they've actually consumed the information, how is it going to be delivered? So we actually have a very robust mobile application for your employees, which are the end users, people working on the field. These things cover everything from hazardous forms, delivering certain documentation, completing forms, to our relevant topic today, the Toolbox Talks. As you'll notice on the first screen, this is what the mobile screen will look like. It'll have your employee's name, a quick COVID check to find out if they've, exhibiting any symptoms, forms that were necessary to complete, hazardous checks, and of course, here Toolbox Talks. So sticking on Toolbox Talks, you'll notice the topic today would have been stretching. So now your employee, because what you've selected on your calendar, based on what you've wanted to distribute, will get that on their mobile phone. So simply as a user, I click on stretching, and now what we've done to make this very engaging and not mundane is we've essentially made a quick video, about a minute or less, using TikTok's platform. So we have Brianne, who's actually an employee here at SafetyTek, who speaks on these topics in detail. Very engaging, very entertaining once you actually see the video itself. Talk about that topic for about a minute or so, and go on discussing all the important nuances around it. Now, once that video is complete, we want to find out, like, did the user and employee actually in fact consume that information, or did they just simply hit play? Like when I was at Canada Post, like I said, a lot of us employees will be on our phone. We didn't a lot of people didn't pay attention. So what we've done to now satiate that and accommodate for that is we've put a mini quiz at the end of the video. So once they watch the video and consume it, we have a simple quiz about the topic. So this one was about stretching. Very simple, nothing too intense or too, tasking. It's just to gauge if they were paying attention or not. They complete the quiz and they would have to sign off. Now, they must pass the quiz, in order to move forward. Like, it's just to make sure that they've actually paid attention. However, we do record whether or not they passed on their first attempt and how many attempts that it took. If you notice on the last screen, an individual who's watched the video, successfully passed the quiz, and has signed off will get that status checked off on their end. So this here slide that you guys are seeing is what your employees on the field will be exhibiting when they're dealing with Toolbox Talks. So no more, just a general huddle. Now they'll get engaging content, right to the point. There'll be a quiz, a small quiz to, in fact, measure if they were paying attention or not. And they'll have to sign off, which now gives you verification that they've actually consumed the content that was delivered, and they're demonstrating that with a quiz that they've taken. So now how does that come back to you guys, the supervisors? So once the employees completed that on their mobile phone, right here is the supervisor dashboard. On the left panel, you'll notice that we cover, again, a robust amount of features pertaining to health and safety that helps manage all your health and safety needs. But again, discussing Toolbox Talks today, I want to show you guys what this will look like on your end. So your employees have now completed this topic. You kind of want to get an idea of, okay, where does that stand? I want to know how many are passing, how many are actually watching it, who's not watching it, and etc. So there's a whole amount of analytics dedicated surrounding that. So user engagement, for instance, you'll get to see how many people you sent it to, how many people actually, in fact, clicked it to view it, and how many of those actually completed the test and signed off. You have a high level at the very top. And then if you want to get into more granular detail with the topics, you have it at the bottom there. So all the topics that have been distributed, you'll get to see them at the bottom. It's broken down into the Toolbox Talk. You'll see what date you scheduled it for, the percentage of people that viewed it, who didn't view it, who signed off, and the average quiz results. So if you have 10 employees, how many of those did well on it, and what the average score was amongst those 10 employees. So right here on this screen, you guys have a high level view of how your employees are doing with regards to the health and safety talks that are being distributed. And maybe you want to take it to a granular level, and there's certain employees that are more important in your eyes that need to consume this information because they unfortunately present a potential risk. They're high on injuries, or there's a lot of incident reporting around that employee. So now we can do that by basically going down to the granular detail. You'll get to see your users, which are your employees. These will have, all of these individuals will have their own ID, their own login, etc. You'll see the list of their names come up, and beside that, their average mark of how they're doing. Now you want to take it a step further and kind of find out, okay, this is their average mark. So we have Deepak Super. He's got an average mark of 66.7. You click report card, and now this is what this report card looks like. It's right down to the most granular detail. You have their average mark at the top, how many they've completed, and in the total that you've distributed. So in this case, 12 out of 81 talks have been completed. He's only passed 16.7% of them. Only two of them he passed. 10 of them he failed. And now when you go down, you get to see what topic that was on, if they in fact signed off or didn't, did they pass, did they fail, and what was their mark. So now that, when you guys took that poll, interestingly enough, you guys said that, how do we measure engagement? So one of the ways that, again, we've solved this is by, again, one, distributing the content in a very entertaining manner, which is a quick TikTok video, a minute or less, to discuss it. It's super engaging. And then after that, to make sure that we can measure that they've paid attention and consumed the information, we provide a quiz, small, short quiz, nothing too taxing, because we know nobody likes taking tests. So it's just small things of, like, what are some, is it important to breathe? Yes or no? Like, very simple. And this will measure now if they consume the information and they've signed off. and this information will translate into, their score, their passing, their failing average, if they've signed off. And now you have all that information at your fingertip, that they've actually, in fact, paid attention to it, fostering a culture of health and safety, not just delivering mundane topics around safety that you have to fulfill due to compliance. Now you're actually creating a culture, and it's simple. Now, time being spent to find topics, write up topics, and distribute them is all being covered. We have that completely covered for you 365 days a year. It's all covered in the calendar view. Select the topic of your choice, and distribute it from the time and day as you please and see fit. But you know what? We've taken engagement another step further, because signing off, is one thing. And again, some employees might find it, oh, I have to take a quiz. And so we wanted to make this fun, and we want to foster an overall culture of engagement for you guys on your work site. Some sites are a lot more high risk than others, but the bottom line is we want employees to feel, rewarded when they're actually doing tasks, not that these are Monday tasks that they have to complete. So what we've implemented in our platform that you will find that a lot of competitors in our area space don't even have is essentially a leaderboard, which keeps track of, all the tasks that are completed. So for example, Toolbox Talks being one of the features that we provide, you can distribute certain amount of points anytime your employee completes that Toolbox Talk. So you might make it 10 points. And every time your employee completes that, they'll be prompted with, you've earned 10 points. In the grand scheme of things, what this looks like is you'll have a ranking of all your employees and the points that they've earned completing certain tasks that you wanted them to complete. Now, when they hit a certain point threshold, you can award them with a trophy, a badge, a star, anything of your choice, which, can be manipulated on your end. However, the whole point of this now is to foster and promote engagement in the workplace just in general. And it's very similar to those, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Peloton, how you can see the ranking of how well they're doing, being able to, give kudos to their employees and just seeing where they rank. So anybody who has a competitive spirit, I know I do, I want to be number one at everything that I do, whether it's a sport or just, want to be the best and put my best, foot forward in whatever I'm doing. So once I see, my coworkers, I want to be number one. So I'm going to complete these forms on time, and these Toolbox Talks, and of course, get the points to get to number one. But as you can see with our Toolbox Talks and our overall platform, we've done essentially everything we can to cover areas of concern for you guys, spending time to find the information. How do we distribute it? How do we measure engagement? And how do we just foster and promote workplace engagement where it's not tasking, but it's fun? So this is how we've done it. And, we've covered those areas to the full degree, taking, Ryan's experience into consideration, mine as a former employee of certain companies such as Canada Post and TD Bank, and we've packaged it up to present to you what we have today, Toolbox Talks.
Thanks, Z. That was great. I hope you guys were able to get some value and to kind of see how it is that we are wanting to solve all of these major problems that are existing in delivering Toolbox Talks, and why I guess the monthly cadence really hasn't shifted or knocked off its pedestal. So just to kind of summarize what we all went through here in the last 40 minutes or so. Toolbox Talks provide valuable and effective method of communications to your workforce, to your subcontractors, including your own employees as well. Reinforces safety throughout the workforce and significantly enhances safety culture by lifting that foundational piece of safety training and lessons learned and just knowledge in general. With SafetyTek, we hope that we were able to display the convenient way for you to conduct these Toolbox Talks, to deliver them. And I'm not saying that it's going to be the end all be all. I'm saying it's a great complement to your overall safety culture. And as far as legality is concerned, what OSHA and Occupational Health and Safety are currently looking for in terms of Toolbox Talks is that you are continuing to educate your staff about the hazards that may exist within their workplace. And so with the daily short form content, we're able to take away 15 learning objectives per week. instead of just once a month or maybe 3 per month based on how your learning objectives work in your Toolbox Talks today and your frequency. So when you can ramp that up to 15 learning objectives per week, multiplied by 52 weeks, it's a significant amount more continuing education that you're able to show and highlight to OSHA auditors or inspectors, or to your core safety auditors, to kind of back up the fact that you believe in safety and you're doing everything that you possibly can in order to make sure that it gets implemented effectively. It's a minimum cost for maximum output. The cost of this subscription starts at $50 a month. It's really that's the good news, is that it's less than what 2 hours of time of your day would cost your employer at this moment in time. And the key is that we're not really trying to make sure that we're not trying to milk how much money we can extract from this. We really genuinely want to get the industry up to speed with respect to Toolbox Talks, and it can help you stay compliant, save money, and save lives. Ultimately, that's the North Star. How do we protect the people who are doing the work for us to the best of our abilities? Without further ado, I'd like to appreciate or express my gratitude for everyone for taking time out of their day to come and hear us talk about what Toolbox Talks mean to us, and how we're trying to solve an industry problem in general. And we hope that you got some value out of this as well. Thanks, and take care.